Good morning, YouTube. It's Eddie Barrios from the Bronx. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. It's about 7:30 a.m. I'm making this video for a Bruce Lee fanatic and a person who doesn't really know much about Bruce Lee, just what he reads from other fanboys. Mark Turner, who's been posting ridiculous comments on my video about Bruce Lee, the most overrated fighter on the planet. Well, Mark Turner has been trying so hard, desperately, to defend Bruce Lee's honor. And Mark Turner, you can't. I made a mistake, and when he was saying Joe Louis, I assumed, because there's other people who bring up Joe Louis. They bring up people who had nothing to do with Bruce Lee. And it's kind of boggles my mind because I'm thinking like, wait a minute, Joe Louis? So actually somebody did bring Joe Louis, the black boxer, up in the Bruce Lee conversation. So I got them mixed up. But Mark Turner, Joe Louis, I know who Joe Louis is. He was the godfather of kickboxing in the 1960s and the 1970s. He was 195 pounds and 6 feet tall. You made a comment that Bruce Lee somehow beat Joe Louis. The problem with that is that the stories that you are reading are posted by other fanboys. It's not true. Joe Louis, the godfather of kickboxing, never fought Bruce Lee, ever. You just continue to add something to every story that you try to talk to me about. Mark Turner, every time you post something, your facts are not correct. You're adding to it. You're telling me this one said this. It's the same old story, Mark Turner, the same old story. Every time one of you fanboys talk about Bruce Lee, you never have actual proof. You always have a he said, she said story. And that's mostly the stories about Bruce Lee. He said, she said. This grandmaster said this. This grandmaster said that. Especially the story about Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris made it clear that him and Bruce Lee never fight, and they never will fight, because Bruce Lee is not a champion and Chuck Norris is. His words. Bruce Lee has never, ever said that he fought Chuck Norris. But Mark Turner came up with a story that some grandmaster said they did fight. And Bruce Lee beat Chuck. It's like, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? Now, back to Joe Louis. Joe Louis was supposed to play the part in Bruce Lee's movie that they gave. They took it from Joe Louis and gave it to Chuck Norris, which made Joe Louis and Bruce Lee have a falling out. Again, they didn't fight. Mark Turner, Joe Louis, and Bruce Lee never fought. There's a video of them sparring, and watch the video. Just like any other video that involves Bruce Lee, Mark Lewis is standing straight up with his hands at his sides, and Bruce Lee's punching him in the chest. Or I think it was the stomach in that video. You consider that a fight? You consider that Bruce Lee beating Joe Louis? They never fought. I seen fanboy stories of Bruce Lee, them saying Bruce Lee beat Joe Louis, but that fight never happened, so it's just bullshit. So you're still trying very hard, and you just keep failing. I mean, I can understand you're a huge Bruce Lee fan, you're a crazy Bruce Lee fan. It's just show something real. We are tired of the he said, she said crap. show something real. Every time you mention something on your post, on my video, and even if I never saw it, I go look at it, I open it up, demonstration video. Or a story that has no merit. Every single time. Every single story that involves Bruce Lee is just a story. It is what it is, a story. Mark Turner, come at me when you have something real, please. Pretty please. Oh, and for your information, Mark Turner, you said that Joe Louis was better than Chuck Norris. Your words. How is this so? Why would you say that? Did you know in 1967, Chuck Norris beat Joe Louis to win the Grand Master Championship? Yes. Do you do any research at all, or you just look at fanboy stories? So how does this make Joe Louis better than Chuck Norris when Chuck Norris beat him? And I'm not saying Chuck Norris ragged him, because honestly, that fight was pretty even. The fight was so difficult that the judges couldn't hardly score the fight. The fight ended up being won on one single strike. I know you don't know this because the comment you made. You wouldn't have made that comment if you know this. And the kick, it was a side kick, a spinning side kick that Chuck Norris planted on Joe Louis. And Chuck Norris won the Grand Masters in 1967. Stop looking at Bruce Lee fanboy posts. They're filled with lies and just rhetoric and stories and Mark Turner, when you find something real, please stop trying to direct me and people to demonstration videos. Show something real. Joe Louis and Bruce Lee would have never, ever fought, just like Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee would have never fought. Jesus, Joe Louis was nearly 200 pounds and 6 foot tall. Again, Bruce Lee was 127 pounds wet and 5'7". Joe Louis was a real champion, a real fighter. Chuck Norris was a real champion, a real fighter. Matter of fact, there's a real video of Chuck Norris fighting Joe Louis. But there's nothing on Bruce Lee fighting anyone. Every time somebody says, oh, Bruce Lee beats champion, Bruce Lee beats karate legend, Bruce Lee beats... You open up the video and it's a demonstration with the person they're saying he's beating them. So I guess if they stand straight with their hands at the sides and Bruce Lee hits them, oh, Bruce Lee gave him a devastating blow. Mark Turner, come up with something, anything. Please show me something real. Stop posting ridiculous stuff on my post and you don't even know what you're talking about. So again, you fail and you're still trying, and then you turn around and you're trying to call me an idiot. You actually, you try to go on YouTube and you try to have intelligent conversation and you can agree to disagree without disrespecting people. But no, they're stupid, they're idiots. When it turns out the one that's calling you an idiot is the actual idiot. You know? Eddie Barrios from the Bronx. Mark, come on, man. You're trying too hard, brother. Eddie Barrios, peace.